Hello. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. I hope that you are doing so well. Different setup today. I've been trying to change it up a little bit, as you can probably tell from my last few videos. You've seen this background before, it's just my living room. But yeah, I'm in a little bit of a camera transition mode at the minute. I am selling my main camera and also the camera that I'm filming on right now, because I am upgrading to a new one. So the one that I usually film these like talking head vlogs on, my big one, my A7 III, is currently boxed up, ready for its new owner. I'm actually really quite like emotional and nostalgic and kind of a little bit like bittersweet sad, because that was the camera that I started my YouTube channel on, and it's done me so well and it's gone with me across the world. And yeah, it's really, I feel quite sad that it's like the end of an era. But yeah, I am very excited for the new one. The new one I'm getting is just going to be the upgrade from the A7 III, so the A7 IV, and the reason that I'm getting it is because if you're interested, I don't know if you're interested, but if you are interested, it has way better video options on it, and it has a flip out screen. This one also has a flip out screen, so that's why I'm like super happy. Usually I have to like connect it to my phone so I can actually see myself, and then it's a real big pain. So I'm very excited to have a flip out camera, and also once I have that, I'm not going to need my little one because I'll be able to see myself when I go out and about. So yeah, I'll just be going down to one camera. So that's why I'm filming on this one. I don't know if you notice any difference or like a quality change or something. I do, but that's just because I'm used to using like bigger lenses and stuff. But for YouTube videos, this one is awesome. This is the ZV-1. So if you're in a market for a small, compact vlogging camera, I definitely recommend it. But yeah, this one will be going to a new home soon too. So that's a little bit of a camera update. Now on to today's video, which is nothing to do with cameras, obviously. If you are new here, my name is Emme, and I do videos all about life in Canada and living abroad. I have been living in Canada since 2016, so almost 6 years ago, which is craziness. But I do have a few bits of like tidbits of information and some experience to share with you all, so that's what I do on my YouTube channel. So if you're interested, don't forget to check out the rest of my channel and subscribe if you want to. So today's video is a little bit of a comparison video. I know that it's a little bit of a comparison, it is a comparison video. I know that you guys absolutely love these comparison videos, so I figured that I would do one. I haven't done one for a while, and today's comparison is which country is best, just generally overall. And I have 4 different categories that I'm going to rate it on, and that is going to be, let me just get my notes: location, quality of life, cost of living, and people. Now there's going to be more categories, but they're the ones I thought of. And then for my 5th kind of category, I'm going to do what would I change? Like what is the one or a couple of things I would change about UK, and what are a couple of things I'd change about Canada. So the first one is location, and for this I would say Canada probably wins for scenery. You know, if you've ever been to Canada or if you've seen pictures of Canada, the scenery and the wildlife is just unbelievably, breathtakingly beautiful. It's like nothing I've ever seen before in my life, anywhere I've been, and I just love it. It's my favorite kind of terrain, the mountains and the ocean, just everything about it. The rainforests are probably my favorite because I'm just a very woodsy, earthy person, but I just absolutely love it. And the different wildlife that you can get here, like bears and moose, which is really funny because my cats were also called Bear and Moose, and they just turned and looked at me because they thought I was calling their names. Yes, we named our cats after 2 Canadian animals. Just all these different kind of crazy, beautiful animals. Like, I mean, you wouldn't want to necessarily cross a cougar, but there are cougars here. The mountain lions. There are, you know, bald eagles, and my favorite, orca whales. Like literally down the road from where I live, I can go to the shore and see orca whales, and genuinely, that was my dream as a childhood. Orcas, if I haven't mentioned it enough times before, are my absolute favorite animal in the whole wide world. And if my younger self could see me now, my goodness, she would be happy. On the other hand, for location, I think the UK wins for history and the travel to the rest of the world. The UK obviously is situated in Europe, and it's kind of like, well, it can't really be in the middle of the world because the world is a sphere, but it's very easy to get pretty much anywhere, even from where I was from in the north, from just near, like, my local airport would be Manchester, and you could get pretty much anywhere from Manchester Anywhere in the world, you might have to do a layover here and there, but it was so easy to get around. Like if you wanted to go to Europe for the weekend, one of the biggest things I miss is those budget trips, like budget flights to Europe, like budget air travel, the best. Or, you know, getting there by train. You could get there by car if you really wanted to and take the ferry over. It was so easy to travel. Well, it is so easy to travel to the rest of the world there. And I just think the location of it being right in Europe and not too far away from North America, and then not too far away from like Asia. Well, it's pretty far away from there, but you get the idea. I just think it's in such a great location in the world, and I think they definitely win for like location in the world for travel to the rest of the world. Well, other than like, you know, North America, because obviously Canada would win in that sense, but you get what I mean. But they also win in this category for the history. So like obviously England has a very deep, rich history and culture. A lot of the buildings are very old. There's so many places that you can visit in England. So although they don't have like the extensive wildlife and terrain that Canada has, it does have just some of the most amazing and interesting history and historical buildings. You know, it's not uncommon to live in, I'm really sorry if you can hear Bear, he's like meowing in the background. If you hear that, he's like wailing. I think he's stopped now. It's not uncommon to live in a Victorian house, and you know, a lot of the neighborhoods are really old, and you know, you go into a place like York and the buildings are hundreds and hundreds of years old. It's like you can go to castles that are thousands of years old, and where I used to go to university in Newcastle, I used to drive down the road and there would be like a castle every few miles, and that was just normality. And you just wouldn't get that in Canada. You know, if a building is 100 years old, that's kind of abnormal here and kind of exciting. I think Victoria is a little bit different. It's definitely older than like the buildings that I used to see in Ontario. There's like some, I think 1800s, like late 1800s here. But yeah, I think the UK really takes the biscuit for the history and the culture. The next category is quality of life. And again, both countries have different things going for them, so I'll run through them. I think for Canada, definitely jobs, like the jobs in relation to salaries and benefits, not PTO, because if you didn't know, Canada's PTO is only 10 days minimum. In the UK, it's double that, it's 20. Usually you do get 15 and you can negotiate it, but yeah, that PTO is crazy. I think that's just a North American thing. But also opportunities as well in jobs. I just feel like there are way more opportunities in jobs here. There's a much better structure, in my opinion, for promotions and getting raises and being able to train. I think training is a lot more common here, and kind of switching careers, like switching paths, is a lot more common. The salaries are definitely higher in my experience. Benefits, like healthcare benefits, are way better here. Kind of RSP, which would be like your retirement savings plans, in my experience, again, have been so much better. So I do think that Canada definitely wins in that department. I think they also win, in my opinion, in the healthcare system. So we do have a kind of government paid for healthcare system in Canada. It's similar but also quite different to the NHS. There are some things that we still have to pay for, like random things like ambulances, I think, and prescriptions we have to pay for still, although those are usually covered by, if you have like extended work benefits, health benefits, they're usually covered by that kind of thing. So there are a couple of things that's really different, but I just find like the quality of healthcare here is a lot better than in England, and I don't know if that's just because of there's less people to deal with. Although saying that, I've had two very different experiences with healthcare. So when you can get access to it, it's amazing. So when I was in Toronto, I easily found a family doctor, which is like your GP. I could go to her whenever I needed to. She was great. Like everything was super quick. Like getting blood tests were really easy and things like that. But when I came to the island, no doctors at all are accepting new patients, which means you cannot get a family doctor. It's impossible. So if you need to see somebody, you have to see a walk-in clinic, or we have this thing called TELUS Health. There's a couple of like telehealths where you can do like virtual appointments, and then you can see someone in real life, which is, in my opinion, has been great, but it's nothing like, it's so hard to actually see a doctor in real life. So healthcare, when you can access it, I think is brilliant in Canada. But if you're in certain areas where there are no doctors available, like Vancouver Island in Victoria, it is an absolute nightmare. Although that is where like your health benefits from your work come in, where you can, you know, sometimes get access to different healthcare, and you can have things like your physio and massage therapy and chiropractor and osteopathy all kind of paid for through work to an extent, like your eyes and your dental and stuff, which I think is amazing. So it's a little bit hard to kind of decide. I do think, as I say, the healthcare is better when you can access it, but it is a whole thing of accessing it. And the fact that you can't get a GP in Victoria, I think is really terrible, because like in the UK, it's so easy to find one. But then again, in the UK, in my experience, I had an awful time with the NHS. Not to say that the NHS is a bad place, because it isn't. It's incredible and the people that work there are amazing. But my personal experience with the NHS has been extremely negative, and my experience with the Canadian healthcare system has been extremely positive. Obviously that's going to differ for different people, so take from that what you will. Another thing that I think Canada wins in this department is the education system. Now obviously I have not gone to school in Canada, I didn't go to university in Canada, but I do have another half, Mike, who used to be a high school teacher, and he was also, you know, he's a Canadian, so he's also been through the education system. So what I know about it, I think that it's so much better than the UK. Just for example, in high school, kids have access to do things like auto shop, and they can go to school on school trips to like go whale watching and all this crazy stuff. They just have so much more opportunities for sports. And when you get into university, if you take something that you don't like, you can change your major and you can do minors, you can do courses in different things. So there are just so many more opportunities for learning. You don't have to, like in the UK, do your standardized testing at GCSE level and then do your A levels and then go into a university degree where you're just doing one thing. There's just so many more opportunities for different people, and it's so easy to like change your credits and like apply them to different courses. So if you do go through something, you can change it, or you can use credits later on to go for another course, and I just think that's really awesome. Also, non-standardized testing here, which I just think is so much better, because honestly, the GCSE and A-level structure in England is just, I just don't think it's great at all. I did really well, but that's because I can take tests. I know a lot of really intelligent people who, just because they couldn't take tests, did not do well in school, and I just think that's a real shame. So in my opinion, Canada definitely wins in the education department. Again though, I do think that differs between what you want to do. I think generally the education system is better in Canada. I think obviously there's going to be specialized schools for different things. Like for example, I really wanted to be an actor when I was younger, and in my opinion, the acting schools, like the conservatory schools in the UK, are far superior to the ones in Canada. But again, that's just due to the amount of people in a smaller space. Although I haven't done like traditional schooling in Canada, I have done night school and I've had a really positive experience with it. And I just think it's like super flexible, and I've just had a really good time with it. So yeah, I would say Canada does win in the education department. So for the UK, in the quality of life section, for me, the UK wins in like family, friends, and familiarity. Obviously, because I am a Brit, this is where I was born and raised, and so I know it really well. So for my example, my quality of life is obviously affected by those things. So to be around family and friends and things that you're really familiar with obviously like enhances the quality of life for me, and I think that is a really important thing to consider, especially when you're thinking about moving abroad. You obviously don't have that kind of like security and support network like you would have in your home country when you move abroad. So I do think that obviously the UK wins in that department. It also wins in the travel department, as I was mentioning before. The location of the UK really helps, but the ease of getting around, just because it is a smaller country with like way more people in it, it's so much easier to travel around with. Like if you don't have a car, for example, which a lot of people don't have a car in the UK, you can get around with buses and trains and planes. It's so easy to get around. Whereas in Canada, you pretty much have to have a car, otherwise you're not leaving your city. Like it's so difficult to get around, in my opinion. So I think definitely England wins in the travel department. So on to the cost of living section. I'm sure this is everybody's favorite section. There are some things now that Canada does win with this, because I know that a lot of people are gonna be like, oh my gosh, you always talk about how expensive Canada is to live. And that is only because I've lived in two of the most expensive places to live in Canada, and that's Toronto and Victoria. Another really expensive place to live would be Vancouver. So I've lived in some very expensive places in Canada. Ontario and British Columbia are I think they are the two most expensive places to live, like provinces to live in Canada. So yes, my experience of living in Canada has been very expensive. However, some places to live in Canada are really, really, really reasonable. For example, Alberta, which is where a lot of people are going right now. Obviously, Alberta is renowned for the Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains kind of sit between British Columbia and Alberta, but Alberta have those like big like Rocky Mountains that you see when you see like pictures of Canada. That is usually Alberta. It is beautiful, and it is also much cheaper to live in. Even Calgary, the city, is a lot cheaper to live in. And when you go more out of into the suburbs and out into the kind of rural areas, you can get some of the most amazing houses and properties and plots of land for like what you would get for like nothing in the UK. Like for what you're paying for an apartment in a city centre in England, you can get like a 4-bedroom house with like a massive plot of land in Alberta and have like a view of the Rocky Mountains. So yes, in some places it is a lot cheaper to live. Obviously Victoria, I don't even want to talk about it. It's a really painful subject, to be honest. It's very difficult to find anywhere unless you're paying like millions of dollars. Okay, maybe not millions, but like for example, in my neighborhood, we just rent at the minute, but there is no way that we could afford to buy a first home in our neighborhood. They're going for like, minimum is probably $1 million, I would say, around this area. So yeah, if you're going to, you know, Alberta, for example, great. I think that is like, you know, you can get some of the most amazing houses there for really, really, really reasonable prices. So Canada does win that department. But if you're going to like Toronto, Vancouver, Victoria, no, it's very, very expensive to live. That was the Coho ferry coming in. Another thing that you might be surprised to learn, or you might not be if you've been here, is that for cost of living, the petrol is cheaper in Canada. That is probably because everybody has to have a car here, but it is significantly cheaper than in England, even though right now people are upset and protesting because apparently it's got more expensive, but it's still cheaper than in England. So yeah, some places to live. Petrol prices definitely cheaper in Canada, and if you eat in season and you're eating like the things that are grown in your province, food can also be cheaper. And now I've learned about Costco, friends. Life has changed. I used to think that the grocery store was the place to go for food. It's not. Costco. Honestly, I don't even know anymore. The lines are blurring. Perhaps Canada is cheaper for food. I don't know anymore. I think everything that I've said in the past has been wrong, maybe, because I only ever shopped in grocery stores and there's Costco and none of you told me about it. I had to learn it for myself. I'm so disappointed. Anyway, my whole perception of like food prices in Canada being expensive has really changed since being a Costco member, as you can see. So yeah, I think there are quite a few things that Canada is cheaper for on the cost of living front. Although I do still think, moving on to the UK, I do still think the UK is cheaper for like standard like grocery stores. Groceries. Supermarkets. I've turned way too Canadian. I do think supermarket prices in England and the UK are still cheaper than in Canada. I think that supermarkets here, if that's where you're shopping, does tend to be more expensive, especially if you're kind of buying things that are not made in Canada. American brands are not as bad, but if you're buying like European ones, like for example, I don't know, pickled gherkins. They're like $7 a jar. Maybe that's just because of where I'm shopping and the neighborhood that I live, but $7! Grapes. I've spent like $10 on a bag of grapes before, and you can get them in Asda for like £2, you know? Things like that really hurt me. Travel is also much more cheaper in England, as I was talking about before. Budget flights and you know, buses, trains, things like that. To be fair, some trains can be really expensive in England, especially if you don't book ahead, but you can usually find, if they're out of like off peak, yeah, so much cheaper to travel around, unless you're, you know, driving apparently, because cars and car upkeep and petrol is still cheaper in Canada. Another thing that the UK wins for is, in my opinion, sales tax and tipping. In Canada, the price that you see is not the price that you pay. Same as like in the US, you have sales tax, which is both provincial and federal. So you have sometimes like 15% extra added on top of whatever you're buying. And also if you're paying for a service, so if you're in a restaurant or like a taxi or your hairdresser's, just anywhere that you are gonna, like requires to give you a service, you have to tip on top of that. Well, technically you don't have to, but you do have to, really. And the minimum is someone really vacuuming in the hallway? Today's video is just what? You know, what was I talking about? Oh yes, tax and tipping. Yeah, 15% minimum, usually 18, and if it's good, 20%. So if you're getting, like, if you're going to a restaurant and you have like the price that you're paying plus 15% plus 20%, it gets very expensive very quickly. Whereas in the UK, not to say that tipping is bad or anything, because it's not, but in the UK, you know, tipping like £2 is like normal. I mean, obviously, again, it depends on salary, because I know that here the salary for wait staff is reduced because they expect them to get tips. So I understand that, but like as a customer, it's more expensive in Canada. So England definitely, you know, for sales tax, I like seeing the price I'm paying. So yeah, I think sales tax in Canada is a lot more expensive. So England definitely wins on that one. And also the UK wins in most places to live, unless you're gonna live in like, you know, London, central London. Yes, that's gonna be very expensive. Or like, you know, the Cotswolds or Cheshire, somewhere really expensive. Yes, you're gonna be paying a lot. But for most places, especially for me being from the north, they're a lot more reasonable than the majority of places that you actually want to live in Canada. So like, you know, there are so many more cities in the UK to choose from, and so many where people live, whereas in Canada, generally, most people live in the cities or live near to the cities, which is why they're super expensive, because you have this massive country and a small population and an even smaller number of places that people actually tend to live. So yeah, the cities are very densely populated, whereas in England, I think people are a little bit more spread out and it's easier to get around. So the vast number of properties, in my opinion, are cheaper to live than in Canada, or cheaper to buy, should I say, and rent than in Canada. The next category is the people. Now, before I continue, let me just say that this is just my opinion. I'm not stereotyping people. Obviously, everybody's different. Not everybody from each country is going to be exactly the same as what I say here. But in general, this is what I have experienced. So in my opinion, Canadians definitely win on the openness and friendliness front. There goes the coho again. How many trips is it doing today? My goodness. Anyway, the openness and friendliness of the people in Canada I found to be so much nicer. People I feel like are a lot more open to making friends and like, you know, meeting new people. I think that people tend to be a lot friendlier. They're less cliquey, in my opinion, in Canada. Also, I find Canadians are more willing to do things and try new things, and they have more hobbies, whereas in England, I feel like not as many people that I knew, and I don't know if it's just because I was younger, but not as many people I knew really had that many hobbies, whereas in Canada I feel like everybody has at least one hobby, and everyone's always willing to try new things. So, you know, if you wanted to go camping and you've never been, people will be more down for it, or something totally random like axe throwing or tree trekking or backcountry camping, those kind of things, kayaking or paddleboarding. People are way more interested in trying new things, whereas I feel like in England I didn't really have the same experience. It was very much, you know, go to the pub, watch a football game kind of deal. So I think Canadians are a little bit more fun in that sense. Canadians are also way more laid back than in England. Maybe a little bit different compared to where you are, but for example, on the island time is definitely a thing. And yeah, people are just way more chill, you know, although that can get annoying sometimes, because if you're like, I want to be somewhere at a specific time, and then people show up like 15-20 minutes late, it can be a little bit annoying. But I haven't experienced that too much. They're just a lot more, you know, chill, and just, I like that as a kind of very anxious social introvert. I like the more laid back feel. I also, funnily enough, find that Canadians are better travelled, and I think that's just because Canadians have to travel further to go to more places, like obviously other than the States. I feel like so many more people I've met here have gone to more places than most Brits that I know. I don't know if that's just because people feel the need to like travel when they travel longer distances, like if they're going to Europe or Asia or Australia, they feel the need to do more because it takes a longer amount of time to get there. Whereas like in England, you know, you would just kind of go to Europe and do like one thing, or you'd go on your like annual vacation to Spain every year or something. Whereas I think in Canada, Canadians do more trips as opposed to holidays. I feel like they're less inclined to just go for a beach holiday, and they're more kind of adventurous, and they want to go on like city breaks and trips, and they want to visit multiple places and multiple spots. So I have found that the majority of people are more or are better traveled than the majority of Brits I know. Again, that's just my own experience, and not everybody's the same. So don't get at me. On the UK front, I think that the UK wins for humour, because the British humour, you know, as dry as it is and sarcastic as it is, I love it and I do miss it an awful lot. I think that sometimes the British humour can be a little bit mean, especially like being in Canada now. Like obviously I understand the British humour, but on the surface it is quite mean, and I don't know why we feel the need to be mean to each other as a humorous thing. And I perhaps have got a little bit like softer to it now being in Canada, where people don't really have that sense of humour. But I do love, you know, I think British comedians are a lot funnier, and I like our sense of humour more, and I like that we're a little bit more witty. And yeah, I feel like the North American humour is way too obvious, especially with comedians. Like it's kind of dumb, obvious humour. Dumb not in a bad way, I mean just like a more obvious, like silly kind of humour. Not dumb, silly kind of humour. Also, I think the British people win for accents. I say British, I mean like the UK as a whole. Our accents are just awesome. And also, in a weird way, because I have an English accent, obviously when I'm at home, I don't get told like every 5 minutes, every time I meet someone that, oh, you have an English accent, because, you know, everybody has an English accent. Whereas in Canada, sometimes it can get kind of annoying when everyone's like, oh, you have an English accent. Do I? You know, I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me. Okay, that's kind of mean, but you get what I mean. Like, that's definitely a winner. Being an expat, like when you're around people that are from where you're from, it's kind of nice to sometimes to not be reminded that you have a different accent. Okay, and on to the final section. Things that I would change about each country. This was actually kind of hard. I know that I'm going to get a lot of people that are probably going to dislike what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, because you know what? Controversy. Can I speak today? Controversy. I love the drama. I love it. So I'm just gonna go for it. Canada, things that I would change. House prices in the majority of the places that most people want to live, especially, you know, where I live in Victoria, Vancouver, Toronto. I wish that they were just a little bit more accessible, you know, for people. That is a big one that I would change. Ease of travel, 100%. I wish that it was easier to travel. I wish it was cheaper to travel. Budget airlines, oh my gosh, I would just love to have a train, you know, a train that runs from Victoria to Langford, which is the next city on. Mind-blowing. In England, normal. Here, mind-blowing. Like, what I would give for a train, honestly, genuinely, just give me a train. And also, the weather. So, not where I live in Victoria, the weather's actually quite nice, although it's kind of cloudy today. But generally, the weather in Victoria is really, really nice. It's never really too hot, it's never really too cold, which I really appreciate. But yes, most of the other places in Canada, I do wish I could change the weather, because it gets cold, and I feel like if the weather was different in other places of Canada, I'd be more interested to live in those places. Like Alberta, for example, because it'd be really cool to live in the Rocky Mountains. But do I want to deal with minus 40 degrees in the wintertime? No. And in the UK, the things that I would change, oh, let's get this laundry list out. I'm just kidding. I think the British mentality probably is one of those things I would change, especially since living in Canada and like meeting Canadians and stuff. I think that the stiff upper lip kind of mentality that we have is, I don't know, and how reserved that we are as Brits. I think being in Canada has definitely opened my eyes to just being more open and just more kind of empathetic as a person. And I do wish that more Brits, I guess, could be like that. And I do think that although we have this, like, you know, taking the mixed sense of humor, I think sometimes it wouldn't be so bad if we were a little bit nicer to each other. Please don't hate me for that. Also, the scenery and the wildlife, obviously in the UK, we do have some really cool wildlife. We have like foxes and badgers, but nothing in compared to Canada. I do wish that we had a little bit more of a diverse terrain. That would be really cool. And also the weather, different from Canada, because obviously in Canada I kind of just wish that it was a bit warmer in most places, but in the UK I just wish that it was less damp and less rainy. And you might be like, Emily, you live on the west coast, it's like the same weather. It's really not. Honestly, people say that it's damp cold here. You do not know damp cold until you've been to the UK. Let me tell you, friends, it is not damp cold. I mean, it's damper than the East Coast, but it is not damp cold. Please go to England in January. You will discover what damp cold truly is. If you could put like Spain's weather in England, oh my gosh, that would be incredible. Anyway, I hope that you liked the video. If you did, please don't forget to hit... Sorry, my camera battery just died. So if you've noticed a little bit of a change, I don't know if I have managed to like make it the same, but if you did, that is why. I also forgot that there is one thing that I totally missed about the UK winning in the quality of life department for supermarkets, and that is the variety. I can't believe I missed it out because it's like one of the major things, but the variety of supermarkets and food available in the UK, like I'm thinking Marks and Spencer's, and just like, you know, really good like ready-made items and, you know, spice mixes and stuff. You don't get that in Canada, and it makes me sad. So yeah, I wish that we had that here, and it's definitely something that the UK wins with, is like just the variety of supermarkets and food and drink available. And with that being said, now it is over. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the rest of the channel. I post videos every single week, usually about living abroad and life in Canada, so if you're interested in that content, make sure to hit the bell notification as well, so then you're notified every single time I post a video. And if you did agree or disagree with anything that I said today, please don't forget to put it in the comments down below. I love a good debate, especially if you disagree with me. Let me know, because you know, I live for the drama. This is who I am. I'm joking, I really don't live for drama, but I do enjoy seeing your comments, and I do enjoy just listening to what you guys have to say. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. Until my next video, I hope you have the most wonderful day, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.